Why are Magic users so polite? Well, they've got a lot of manas. What's going on, YouTube? There are some massive upcoming PvP tests as well as some potential changes to Cyrodiil, and I wanted to take this video to dispel some rumors and talk about what we know so far. And to get my credentials out of the way, you guys can see that I'm a professional Zergling with 500,000 AP, literally 221st in line from the throne. When there is a Zerg, I find myself at the front back line of the group, making sure to lead us into victory. And as we start, just remember to quickly like and subscribe. Let's talk about exactly what's going on here. So with update 45, we learned that a brand new Cyrodiil Champions Test PvP campaign is going to be put on live servers. Now, normally, when the developers are doing something, it's usually isolated to PC or PTS. Now, thankfully, this is actually going to extend to both PlayStation, Xbox, and PC and will be available on all live servers. But what exactly are they doing? Well, they're creating a brand new Cyrodiil campaign where pretty much everything is simplified. All of the abilities are simplified to very specific dialogue, and you actually have to point and aim heals. There's no real heals that you can place on the ground. A lot of text has been removed. A lot of buffs have been removed from class skills abilities. Also, you're going to be given generic sets as well as a stat block to complete this test. A lot of people are worried that this is what the Cyrodiil campaign is actually going to become in the future, and we were able to actually ask some very specific questions after the event had ended, and I can dispel some of those rumors. And they even say at the bottom here, note that with update 45, we're just the beginning of testing for Cyrodiil Champions campaign. They expect a fuller rollout with greater option and a more polished experience in the future. So everybody's thinking this is they're going to take all the skills away. They're going to take everything away. It's not true. They are testing some other things that I find unique, such as changes to siege weapons to make it to where it's easier on the actual server to, document them. And to just say it again, this is not permanent. People think that they're going to just translate the game state that we're testing into a permanent one. That is not true. This is only for testing purposes and to get feedback. So please don't panic and think that they're going to change 50,000 things and there's going to be no sets in Cyrodiil ever again, because I'm getting tons of comments like that. Just take a deep breath. That's not what they're doing. This is solely for PTS testing purposes, but instead of this being on the PTS, it's on the live servers. And so what exactly is the purpose of this test? Well, the purpose of this test is actually to do something very simple. It's to figure out ways to increase the player population of Cyrodiil over time. Now, at its peak, I believe it was 1,800 people plus per campaign, which means that in theory, if everybody was attacking / defending the same fort, you could look out into a field of almost 2,000 players if all three alliances were there fighting in the fields. And that would be tantalizing. And the developers, I believe, are very aligned with getting that back, because PvP is a very marquee feature for any MMO. A lot of people, when they're watching, live streams, like if they tune into me, for example, they want to see me doing something, and who doesn't love PvP of a video game? For example, I've never really seen World of Warcraft, but if I turn into a live stream and I saw some PvP, I'd be like, ooh, this is some PvP. Let's see what's going on here. If they tune in and I'm doing my daily crafting writs, they're going to be like, is this all that your daily routine is? And I'd have to go, yes. And for those of you who are like, was it really that big back in the day? It was huge. If you were to look up the 2014 player cap, this is what will come up. And you can see this is a huge ability, to get a lot of people interested. Imagine you're live streaming, you're just watching, Twitch, or you're playing in Cyrodiil, and you just see hundreds, maybe even 1,000 plus people in a field. This is definitely something I'm glad that they're investing time into. That being said, this brings up a really poignant question. What do I think is going to happen? Because a lot of people think that we're going to turn into like a hero shooter, or like everybody gets like a preset, like here's your Sorc preset, here's your Templar preset. What do I actually think is going to happen based on conversations that I'm able to discuss and get some general feedback? But it's important to note too, the developers themselves have already said they'd plan to do both a Q&A and a survey afterwards. So they're going to answer community questions about PvP as a whole. The second thing that they plan to do is get feedback. What do people think about a Cyrodiil campaign? You know, what do they think it should look like if they're going to get back to that original player cap? But what do I think that they're going to focus on? For starters, healing is ridiculously annoying in Cyrodiil. Cross healing is annoying. The ability to stack crazy amounts of heals. There are so many things that make healing annoying inside of Cyrodiil, and from a coding perspective, it's not that much better. So instead of shifting the meta to make shields worse or armor resistances worse, it seems like the direction they're leaning towards is making it to where you have to actually point at a player to heal them. In the same way you have to point at an enemy player to hit them, it seems like they're going to be shifting healing to be a little bit more like attacking, but for healing. And obviously, you would want to do that to your allies, hopefully. And so that, I think, will not only make healing a bit more skill-based as opposed to just spamming AoEs, it will also help prevent things like cross-healing and ridiculous amounts of heal stacking in specific areas. Now, they've also talked about changes to skills. Now, skills notoriously do a lot in this day and age, so let's talk about what exactly they mean. Well, if you notice, for example, Crit Surge gives you a buff, and then when you deal critical damage, it heals you for 4,026 damage, and that can occur every 1 second. And that can happen for the entire 33 seconds that Crit Surge is active. So instead, what they could do, because they've talked about kind of reducing the amount of buffs that you're getting from your skills, because that's causing all sorts of performance coding, is instead just increase the critical damage you heal by, and then go from there. Or what they can also do is if you have something on your skill bar, you just gain a permanent stat increase. You know, there are already some skills that do that, where it's like when you have something on your bar, you know, you gain a specific bonus. For example, Bound Aegis just gives you minor resolve and minor protection. You don't have to actually keep clicking it on and off. It just gives you something over time. What that does is it helps with the performance. You're not constantly gaining and losing different buffs and things over time, because you have to remember too, as all of these sets and skills and things are interacting with the world, they all have to be processed, obviously, as they're happening. And depending on what server you play on and what your ping is, the performance will vary. Another thing that I see people advocating for, and I see conversation about, is having skills be different from PvE to PvP. Now, a lot of people have discussed things like moving things such as your healing potential from weapon and spell damage to maximum magicka, which would force people to build differently. I do think, though, that if they change it to where you have to do specific heals where you have to point and click at somebody to heal them, that will probably take care of that problem. But some skills like Hardened Ward, I mean, as a sorcerer main, I think you could just keep buffing this. But unfortunately, for the rest of everybody who doesn't play a sorcerer, Hardened Ward is ridiculously OP. You get a shield, you get a heal. It's overpowered. And what you could do is, instead of taking away Hardened Ward from solo players who absolutely love the power that it gives you for solo content like fighting world bosses, this is pretty fantastic to give yourself a shield and a heal. Well, you can just change how it is inside of Cyrodiil. Now, notoriously, the developers have been hesitant to do this because it could be confusing for new players for skills to work differently, you know, inside of PvP versus PvE. But I think that as people start to, you know, recognize that it's very hard to balance both of these things at the same time, it could potentially be a necessary way to move forward and kind of keep skills to maintain their kind of original form, but not be as overtuned potentially in PvP, where realistically there are some skills that are just ridiculously overpowered and overused. And so where exactly does that leave us? Well, it leaves us in a situation where I think player feedback is going to be paramount. What do people want to see inside of Cyrodiil? Is it time to rip off the Band-Aid and just accept that skills need to be different inside of Cyrodiil versus PvE content? That way they could be balanced easier. Is it time to change how siege weapons work, where they're unlimited, so you could just place them and then they will get destroyed afterwards? You don't have to pick them up, heal them, or do any of these other shenanigans. Is it time to fully change how they work? Is it time to change how other things in Cyrodiil work, such as heal stacking, cross healing? Should your heals have to actually be pointed and clicked at a player to where healing actually requires skill? Should we still change where your heals stack off of? Should it instead come off max magicka So healers can't just keep building these crazy weapon and spell damage builds, which then do crazy amounts of weapon and spell damage in addition to being a healer. Is it time to kind of change how that works as well? How do you think that these changes should affect Battlegrounds? If they do change skills for PvP, do you think that they should then take all of those changes and put them inside of Battlegrounds and dueling as well? Importantly too, I just want to say that as a strong advocate for PTS players being rewarded, I'm very happy they're doing this test on the live server, because not only are there bugs that are specific to console as opposed to PC, but you get rewarded for additional AP as well as experience, and I think gold for doing this campaign. I think it'll be pretty fun, and it will actually be a chance for people who wouldn't have the chance to do any sort of play testing on PTS to get an idea as to kind of where things are going. And I'm very excited for that and a huge advocate for things like that. So I'm glad to see that they've, given people the ability to get rewards for doing what essentially is a PTS test, in my opinion. So everyone, thank you guys so much again for watching. As always, we're doing our 3 giveaway drawings. All you need to do to enter is leave a comment, comments below. Tell me anything. What changes would you like to see? Because I will definitely be giving a long-winded survey feedback response, like I'm sure a lot of you guys are. Second thing is just make sure you're subscribed. All you have to do is just be subscribed, but also follow on Twitch and Twitter if you wouldn't mind. And the third thing is look for a hidden word to be flashed upon the screen. If you're the first person to find and comment that word, you will win. Thank you guys one last time, and I'll catch you guys tomorrow. Bye, guys.
You better remember to like and subscribe to Jakeclips. Or you should. I might have to pluck your eyes if you don't. Or, better yet, I'll skip rope with your entrails. Do it now. Subscribe. Ta-ta. Off with you.